Hi, I'm Julie Schaefer, host of the Finding Love Summit. I'm also a psychologist and relationship coach. And I've got a question for you. When somebody says you need to change, or when you have the thought, I should change, don't you think that it's going to be hard? Well, my guest today is here to show that it can be easy. Today, I have Andrea Isaacs. She has a passion to bring more joy to motivated, conscious, hardworking leaders who are changing the world. She's an international speaker, empowering facilitator, and transformational coach. After transforming her own painful shyness into confidence, she recognized that change can be easy. Her own personal transformation taught her that she can guide others through their transformations. She has uncanny insight into what will aid each unique shift with the greatest ease for the greatest outcome. She has now changed the lives of thousands of people in over 25 countries. Welcome, Andrea. How are you today?
Hi, Julie. I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. We're neighbors of sorts. You're a little bit south of where I live, so it's kind of fun to be interviewing somebody so close to home. You do some really fascinating work with Enneagrams and emotional mastery, which I think is going to be so wonderful as we talk about relationships and how it relates to relationships. And I'm really curious how you got into this.
Wow, I love that story because it has been a journey. I would say as a young person, I was painfully shy. In fact, I was kind of taught not to talk because my older sister always spoke up for me. Someone would say, "How are you?" and she would answer. So, and being shy, that was just fine with me. And if I did errands with my mother, I remember if she ran into someone she knew, I would literally hide behind her skirt, and I could still feel the little me, peeking out and then going back in, peeking out and just hiding. And then fast forward many years, I was in, not surprising, a nonverbal career. I was a dancer. I didn't have to talk, except it was my own company. And for some weird reason, it was actually a love hate relationship. I loved to get out in front of the curtain at the beginning of the evening and greet the audience, say a few words about what they were about to see, and it maybe took 3 minutes, but I was so nervous. My hands would be sweating. I was more nervous about those 3 minutes than anything I did on stage. And I was so afraid of whatever that I talked so fast just to get it over with, to the point that I'm sure people couldn't understand me. So then fast forward one more thing about my dance career. I really most love to choreograph dances about people and emotions and relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And so I learned way back, like 50 years ago, that I couldn't ask my dancers to move like they're happy or sad or angry or in love, because it felt silly and it looked silly. So I found a way to have them actually embody the emotion I wanted them to communicate so it was authentic and powerful. So then now fast forward 25 years, I came across this personality system, the Enneagram. Ennea means 9 in Greek, and gram is diagram or drawing. And literally, it's just a circle with a triangle and a 6-pointed star. It's 3 symbols. But there are these 9 points on the outer edge of the circle, each one representing a different personality type. And each personality type has different emotions, different emotional strengths, and very predictable ways they get emotionally challenged. And this really I was so fascinated by this. It just caught my attention, my heart, and I wanted to know more. So I dove into studying it. I went to a week-long training, and I sat on my butt for 12 hours a day for a week. And I'd been used to dancing 12 hours a day, moving, being in my body. And I remember saying, I want to do the types because then I'll remember it in a bone deep way. Mm-hmm. And it was so clear to me that this was possible that I thought surely it exists, and it didn't. So one of the things I did is I created something I first called EnneEmotion, using movement to explore and embody the Enneagram. Initially, it was a teaching tool. But as I started to teach it, I realized I was changing. So the shy me, before my first class, and I'll never forget this feeling, I was just hoping certain types that were naturally confident, I was hoping they wouldn't come because they would see how unconfident I was. And types that are known for their wisdom and their like intellectual mastery, I hope they wouldn't come because then they would see how stupid I was. I mean, how crazy is that? But they all came. There were like 65 people there. And what happened is I started to change because in exploring and embodying, the energies of these different types, in particular, the type called the leader, which is naturally confident, and their dark shadow, and we all have one, their dark shadow is anger or even rage. And I'll never forget the point in my life where I swore to myself, I'm never going to be like that, because the anger was just so offensive and hurtful to others. And there's this saying, you throw the baby out with the bathwater. And so if that's one spectrum, one polarity, if this end is confidence and this end is anger, I didn't want the anger, which meant I didn't have access to that polarity, including this good side, the confidence.
Yeah.
It was when I went into the shadow side of this particular type and I let myself feel anger. Boy, was it scary at first. It really scared me. I was trembling because I felt it in other people in the room. I was trembling. But what I learned is anger is just energy. It happens to be a lot of it, but I learned that the cells in my body won't explode.
Right.
I could choose not to explode. And I became able just to stand in the energy of anger and say what I had to say and still speak gently and calmly with connection and understand the other person and resolve whatever happened. That was a turning point in my life. And that's when I realized the work I had created is not just about the Enneagram. It's about learning how to embody a greater range of emotion. And when you know how to do that, you actually have the doorway to your emotional mastery. And that's what I'm teaching now.
Oh my goodness. I have so many questions. um, as you know, I'm a psychologist and went to grad school and studied all sorts of personality perspectives, models, theories, and tests. And we never went over the Enneagram. So I am really curious what the Enneagram is. Is it like a personality test? And how helpful is it in figuring out, I'm this way and you're that way. So how are we going to relate together?
Great questions. Let's see if I can remember them all. I want to answer them all. So the Enneagram itself is not a test, but there are many different assessments in the field. So there was a time I was about to teach a class and I wanted people to know their type before coming in. And so I have an email template prepared that I used to use that said, before coming, these are my 3 favorite tests. Go take them before the class. And I was about to click send. And I heard this. And honestly, I wasn't a huge fan of any of them. They're just the ones that I like the best. So I'm hearing this voice up there saying, write your own. And I said back to that voice, I can't do that. And the voice said, write your own. And I said it again. And the voice did it again. I'm like, oh. So I had this big manual on my lap. I picked it up and I threw it on the floor. And I said, okay, if I did, what would it be like? So I created my own assessment. And mine is different than the rest of them. When you get my assessment, you see the Enneagram symbol itself. You don't just get this meant you're this type. You don't just get a report saying this is your core type and that's what it means. That's cookie cutter.
Right.
We're all unique.
Yes.
Every one of us, and no 2 people alike, as you know.
Yes.
And or sometimes you'll get all of the scores, but maybe not the bottom few because they think it doesn't matter. But you only get 1 score for each type. I differentiated the gifts of each type and the challenges of each type, which 9 times 2 means you have 18 realms of human emotion that we get to see in my assessment. In other words, I see your gift, how much or how little you have the gifts and the challenges of each of the types around the circle. And as I started looking at it, I started to realize, oh my, that score is impacting that, and that score is impacting that. No wonder that score is that. No wonder that. No, it's like it's a holistic picture of how all of the scores impact each other and impact you to either empower you and make life easy and successful, or to give you the same kind of challenge over and over again and make life a struggle.
It sounds like some people, from what you just said, like some people struggle more with their challenges than other people.
Yeah, well, I could look at their chart and tell you why.
Okay. That would be awesome.
And you know what? The other thing is change can be easy. And it doesn't mean you have to have those or tolerate those struggles forever. When my work is about embodiment. As a dancer, I had my dancers embody all of those emotions. So it's one of my areas of expertise. It's kind of a weird skill, but I mean, I can embody any emotion. And what happens when you do that is you are creating and then training a neural pathway. And neuroscience has proven that the brain has neuroplasticity, which means we can always create new neural pathways. And so I help you embody to create and then embody those neural pathways for the missing link. So when you've had challenge after challenge, and I look at your blueprint, the emotional mastery blueprint, the pie chart of your results, I can see where your challenges are. And then we have you embody that challenge you don't like, change the energy in your body. You embody it, your body just finds it, what it wants, what it prefers, which is
Yes.
empowering, because we all want to be connected to heaven and earth and be all that we are.
Yeah.
And now you have the neural pathway for it. And we anchor it. We anchor it in the body with what I call a mudra. Traditionally, it's a prayer or meditation position. And then we anchor it in the mind with a mantra, which is kind of like an affirmation, except together, the mantra and the mudra are so powerful in creating a new neural pathway. So the next time that challenge arises, you have something that's so easy to do that can change your emotional reaction on a dime. And what happens when you energize that neural pathway by saying that mantra, it changes how you think, how you feel, and how you respond to life. And then those challenges don't have to be challenges anymore.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I know, my work with people who have trauma and my background as a health psychologist, that we have neurons in our brain. Everybody knows that. We also have neurons in our heart and neurons in our gut. And so when we look at trauma, and what we see is people tend to flee their bodies, and they don't like this idea of embodying something is foreign, possibly scary.
Yes. Well, it triggers PTSD.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm
Yeah.
working with a retired military officer who is, for a good reason, trained not to feel.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if on the battlefield he felt, he had emotion, people would die.
Yeah.
And so what I do with them first is we talk about fear, and how I talk to the part of them that has the fear. And I ask that part, the questions that this person has, we ask that part of them who's been the master of keeping you safe about this. We ask all the kinds of questions, and then I go back and talk to the client, and we have new insight into the willingness to shift. Like, for instance, it's easier to give you an example.
Yeah.
He's been married 35 years, and his wife was wanting a little more affection. And in talking, she was my client first, and then she referred him. And in talking with him, I asked him, are there times you will have the impulse to reach out and touch her and you don't? And he said, oh yeah. In fact, we were going out for dinner and she looked really beautiful and I wanted to tell her and I didn't. And I said, do you notice when you're leaning in and you're wanting to give her a compliment, or you're leaning in wanting to touch and you pull back? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, then when you have that impulse, take a look around and ask yourself, am I safe right now? Oh, and then he did that. And he said, oh, there's my couch. There's my chair, there's my desk, there's my hanging, my painting, my this or that. And he started to recognize I'm not in the battlefield. So the first one was, look around, are you safe? And then the next question was, and I named her name, are you safe with her? Oh yeah, of course. Well, just ask yourself, am I safe with her? And you say the yes. And then just notice what happens next. So in the next session, I said, did you do that? He said, yes. And now there's more affection and he's expressing compliments, and it's so beautiful and so sweet. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a really good story. And I bet she really appreciated it too.
Well, it's changing their lives. We had what I called the affection boot camp, where we did some exercise. It's just, it's not sexual. It's just about touch and the value of touch, that there's a tenderness and there's a deeper connection.
Yeah.
And he wanted to have a deep connection. It was his biggest craving when he started to work with me. And now he has it.
Yeah, now he has it. And it wasn't like, do this, do that. It was like, let's get in touch with the part of you that's having you hold back, and get to know that part and figure out what's going on and what it needs. And it needed safety.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we all have parts that hold us back from one thing or another. It could be holding us back from going for what we want or who we want to be with.
Yeah.
There's another question you asked me earlier about, was it knowing your type? No.
Well, so I was curious, like, if you know your type and you're with somebody, I mean, and it could be a friend or it could be your parent, I suppose, or your partner, but you've got a relationship. Like, how does knowing their type help you?
Yes, a lot. So here's an example. I'm an emotional type, if you didn't gather that already. And I had one of my clients was also very much like me, a very emotional type. Her partner was a type called the observer. He was not an emotional type. He was very intellectual. He could think about his feelings, but to express them, to feel them, not so much. And interestingly, they've been in like a 10-year plus relationship. They lived about 400 miles away from each other, which for him worked great, for her, not so great.
Yeah.
And she, right after they got married, she was ready for a divorce. She's like, I just don't get it. Why is he not here more often? And as we did some work together, we realized that that was his comfort zone. His way of expressing love was in service, acts of service. And so when he was there, he did so many acts of service. And he also started to learn how to feel. But the point I want to back up, though, is when we know someone's core type, we can adjust our expectations, if you're willing to, and if you care enough, we can adjust our expectations and not take their behavior personally. Because what happened when she learned not to take his behavior personally, she just saw him for that's who he is. And that was okay.
Right. Yeah.
So that's huge. And when someone has a short anger fuse, and there are certainly a lot of people who have a short anger fuse, I would say with anger, some people overdo it, some underdo it. Either one works.
Yeah.
But for those who have, well, this is the cold shoulder, this is yelling and screaming. If you take that personally, that's not going to serve you well in any relationship.
Right.
And anger is one of the issues I actually love to work on, because I I think I was around a lot of it as a kid. And my solution was I would send myself to my bedroom. I was in my bedroom. I would feel it bubbling up in the dining room, and I had to get out of there. And I learned to hold it in. Hold it in, hold it in. And that didn't serve me. And until I started embodying the Enneagram. And one of, I'll do sort of pointers about this, but there's a whole lot more to unpack about it. When you're hurt or angry, if you overexpress it, we know that doesn't work well. But if you don't express it, it's not resolved. And there is a way to just hold your ground, like I had to learn how to do. You hold your ground so you can stand up for yourself. And then feel that heart-to-heart connection you have with that person, so that your energy softens. I told you I work with mantras. I hold my ground and I speak gently from my heart. Now, once you have that neural pathway and you practice it when you don't need it, it's there for you when you do need it. So you don't need to do all this gesture. You don't need to do all that movement. You can simply say quietly in your mind, I hold my ground and I speak gently from my heart. And my energy softens when I say those words. And so when we speak gently from our heart, the other person, if we're really angry at this other person, and we come into the room like, oh, so I got to just tell you my truth because that's what's happening. I'm going to be authentic and I'm going to tell you what it feels. Right. Doesn't go well. You're angry. Their mirror neurons, which we all have, their mirror neurons kick in and they start reflecting that back to you. It escalates. Right. However, calming down and feeling that gentleness, the heart-to-heart connection, and you start with curiosity, having a conversation, lead into the topic, and then invite them to talk about, well, yeah, when that came up, I was wondering what was going on with you. Who knows? You don't know. You might think you know, but we don't really know what's going on with another person. And when we're curious, when we're calm and kind and connected, their mirror neurons kick in and they have the same experience, the same emotional reaction of calm, kind curiosity. And you start having a conversation, and then you can get to the point of what was hurtful. And so, well, when this happened, I was kind of sad. It hurt my feelings. Oh, you're kidding me, the other person might say. I had no idea. Oh, and then you could say, well, what I would wish what I prefer would be, what happens when we manage it in that way is instead of challenging a relationship or maybe even ending it, we deepen the relationship, understand each other better, resolve the situation so it never has to happen again.
And wouldn't that be awesome?
Well, it's magical. I get to experience that a lot when people push my buttons, and I love watching it, and I teach it a lot, and then I hear reports afterwards about how different they're showing up.
Yeah. You are the creator of the Isaac's Emotional Mastery Program, or method. I think you called it the method. It sounds like what you're starting to talk about is how to control or have some mastery over how you're expressing the emotions that you have. What can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, yeah, every time we have a thought, a feeling, or a behavior, we are using a neural pathway. We're creating or strengthening a neural pathway. So those thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, we've done a lot. Just like going to a gym and your muscles get stronger each time you lift those weights,
Mhm.
those neural pathways, each time you have that thought, each time you feel that feeling, each time you do that action, those neural pathways are really strong. And that's great if those pathways are things like confidence and speaking up for yourself and that calm, kind curiosity. These are great neural pathways.
Yeah.
If your pattern that you've repeated a lot is withdrawing when your feelings are hurt, or raising your voice when you're angry, or or not making a wise decision on who you might want to have a relationship with, for instance, those could be neural pathways that are very strong too. If we don't know how to choose differently, if we don't know how to create a new neural pathway that represents our best and highest self, that means I call these whammies, these challenges, I call them your whammies. Then your whammies are driving the car of your life. They're driving down the road to your destiny. And that's not going to go somewhere you're going to like.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
being the master of your emotions means that you get to choose your emotional reactions. And that means you have to know how to create that new neural pathway. That's really the key to emotional mastery, is knowing how. It's choosing, but before choosing, it's knowing that you can and how to create a new neural pathway for the way you'd rather feel and be.
Nice. Well, what if I don't ever want to be angry?
Well, then if someone hurts your feelings and makes you angry, what you do is you feel there's a lot of righteousness in our emotional reactions. I don't want to say you're wrong to be angry,
Right.
but if you're angry, you don't want to be angry, just notice I'm getting angry. Take a breath, feel your feet on the ground, stay present. I don't know if you're a withdrawing type. I was. That was my go-to. I
Mhm.
had to feel my feet on the ground so I wouldn't run away. Feel that heart-to-heart connection.
Mhm.
Feel how your gentle, loving, kind heart. And as your energy changes, you'll be able to talk about what happened. Because if you don't want to be angry, the point is if you don't resolve it, it will happen again. And then maybe next time you cannot be angry. But if you don't resolve it, it will happen again. And next time you'll hold down your anger until you can't hold it in anymore. And that's called passive aggressive. You hold it in, you hold it in, you hold it in until you can't. And then of course we explode. And that's not of service to you or the other person. And
Right.
again, it still doesn't resolve the situation.
So I may feel anger to start with, but don't it's about learning how not to let the anger run away with me. And instead I can acknowledge it, hold my ground, and then from a kind, loving place, maybe with a dash of curiosity, move forward and reach out. Yeah.
And you
Okay.
don't even have to say you were angry because that's in a way it's irrelevant. You were hurt before. Anger is usually the hurt,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
sadness and sorrow, or the
Yeah.
feeling of loss. I felt like I lost our connection, or I felt like our connection wasn't there.
Right.
Some things, some things just aren't necessary to be said. I used to feel like I had to say everything because I wanted to be fully understood. And
Right. Right. Right.
it's really not necessary. The point is, the way you said this, that, or the other, I made me feel like you didn't really see me, or whatever it is that's coming up for you.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, when you're angry, it's a key. It's actually a clue that something happened that needs to be addressed.
Yes.
And so the art of emotional mastery is knowing how to address it in a way that serves your best and highest purpose, reflects your best and highest self, honors the best and highest of the other for the best and highest possible outcome.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
mastery.
Mhm. Mhm. What I notice a lot of people have is patterns that they do the same things over and over again. So they're not, it seems like they can say they did it, but something about that is the pattern that's running the show.
Yeah.
They get into the same relation, or they have repeated relationships, but they're end up the same way every time. Or they run into the same conflicts with people, no matter who it is they're in relationship with. Can you talk a little bit about how the Enneagram and emotional mastery might be able to help with that?
Yes. So there are so many ways, but here are the few top of mind. And this first came to me right after I created my quiz. The quiz right now is automated. So in the blink, after you click submit in a blink, you have the results in your inbox. And before it was automated, I was hand drawing the chart is a circle, and there's like these slices of pie around the circle. And I used a highlighter to fill in the gift, how much of the gift or how little, and then a different color highlighter for the challenge. So the very first time this happened, it was for the perfectionist, type 1, really strong drive to seek perfection in all areas. So I pick up the green marker that reflects the gift, and it was really high. And so while I'm filling it in, and because I'm doing this by hand, I had time to reflect on what it means. Oh, good with details, striving for perfection. Okay. And I put it down and look at the score for the challenge. Ooh, it's really high. Okay. And I wanted a red highlighter, but they don't have red, but I call this pink. This is pink.
Pink, yeah.
It looks red in my mirror, in my camera. Anyway, I call it red. And I'm filling out the red one going, ooh, and feeling what this means. Really harsh on themselves, a strong inner critic, always telling you you're wrong or stupid or bad. Oh, I bet they're really critical of other people too. Okay. And I put it down, and I go to look at the gift for type 2, the nurturer, the one whose gift is the ability to have ease in reaching out and connecting to another. And I look at the score, and on a scale of 1 to 10, it was a 2. So I pick up my green marker, and I go, 2. Ooh, what's with this person that it's so hard for them to connect? And I had this light bulb went on. I go, oh my God, all that criticism pushes people away.
Mm-hmm.
So you may think you want a relationship, but if you have a strong inner critic, you're criticizing other people too. It is pushing other people away because no one likes to be criticized.
Right.
So in coaching up with a person like that, we do have a lot of processes around the inner critic. And I know you're familiar with shadow work because I know we have a mutual friend.
Yes.
So I do some work around the inner critic, and we change the voice and we relax the inner critic. And as we relax the inner critic, the critic of others also relaxes, and their ability to reach out and connect increases.
Mm.
And I'll just give another example here.
Yeah.
So if I were to continue around the circle, type 2, the nurturer, is their gift is not just reaching out and connecting, it's knowing what others need, being there to be of service, and they're so useful and helpful. So if that score is really strong, oftentimes their red score is really strong. What happens, I'm filling in the red score here. What happens when that red score is so strong is they think they're here to be of service to others. They are here to satisfy the needs of others. I don't have needs. Or, yeah, well, you should be there for me. You don't have to ask me. I'm so good at providing you what you need. You don't have to ask me. Why should I have to ask you? As if you were psychic. Now, this person may be psychic and just know what someone else needs, but most people aren't.
Right.
And so this person has some sort of pride about, I got it. I might say, well, Julie, could you help me out with that? Well, never mind. I know you're really busy. Never mind. And then you push away the possibility of having someone be there for you. What happens when I see a strong red score there is underneath all of that, they have this resentment that no one's here for me. After all I do for others, no one is here for me. Mm-hmm. Well, they put across this image of, being strong and independent and self-sufficient, that I don't need your help. Others might want to be there, but they don't know how. So the process I do with them is learning how to it's more to unpack around this, but in short is knowing that it's okay to have a need. It's human to have a need, and to learn how to find what it is you want and need. What is your heart's desire? Learning how to articulate it. And then I have this thing I called stop and stay stopped. Because sometimes we ask for support and then we deflect, like, oh, that's okay, you're really busy. And when we make a request, we have to stop and stay stopped and give the other person the chance to respond. They may say no, but they might say yes. Mm-hmm. And then it's just to simply open your heart and let yourself receive what's there. And there are a lot of people who are not good receivers. And then they get pissed off that their partner's not there for them. Right. Well, we have to learn how to ask for what we want. And then there's a good chance we might get it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love this example. Do you have more examples if you go around the Enneagram?
Oh, yeah. Every score has one.
This is rich.
Well, I don't know if we have time to do all of them, but let's see. So that was type 3 is called the achiever. So their gift is they have no doubt that they believe in themselves. They have no doubt about what their dreams are. They have no doubt that they'll achieve them because they know the steps, the sequence, and the timing. They're going to accomplish that. Yeah. And they'll be efficient about it. It's something we all would want to have, really, no matter how big or small your dreams are. I believe that we all have a way of being that we want. So that is a gift. the challenge for them, well, if you don't have that gift, you're going to have that means you may not believe in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't believe in yourself, why would you go for the relationship you want or might deserve? And not if you don't believe in yourself, not if you don't believe you deserve it. If you don't have that gift and you have a dream, there's no way you're going to accomplish it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a whammy challenge if you don't have the gift or if you have the challenge here. So the challenge, the red score here, is when you're so focused on getting your tasks done and moving towards that objective, what can happen is you don't want to take time out for people, especially if they want to talk about those emotions.
Right.
Because it feels like, oh, it's such a time suck. I just got to get my work done. Leave me alone. They won't put it in those words, but it comes across to others as if you don't care, as if you have no compassion. And that gets in the way of relationships.
Big time.
Yeah, I had a client who, she was an entrepreneur, and entrepreneurs work hard because it takes a lot. And so she was really focused on her clients, being of high service to her clients. And then she'd be working to the evening. And she said, this was sort of heartbreaking. She said to me, in one session, I didn't know this, but my husband just told me that I haven't had dinner with him in over a week because I work through dinner. And that actually it's been going on longer than that. And he said, if this doesn't change, I'm out of here.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a wake-up call for her. She wanted the relationship, and she let her work override everything else. And her heart's desire was really to have a good relationship with her husband. And so she started having some healthy boundaries and having time with her husband, having dinner time with her husband, and things are so beautiful.
Nice. One thing, kind of a pattern I'm seeing emerge here in these examples that you just gave us, and I know we didn't get through all of them, which is okay, but is that people have they may unknowingly be choosing something, one thing over another, or prioritizing one pattern over another, prioritizing the self-criticism / judgment of others over connection. Can you talk a little bit more about how we're making that choice and why, even if we don't know it?
There are a lot of things that drive the chooser. And now, as you and I were talking before we started recording, when I was young, I didn't know I got to choose.
Mm-hmm.
I would be in a relationship with someone who essentially chose me.
Mm-hmm.
And then it wasn't the right relationship, and it would end for good reason. And it was so life-changing for me when I realized that I matter and what I want matters. And this is something that, a lot of people don't really embody, because if you don't believe that what you want matters, you won't ever have it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So and then there's a whole lot of history and unpacking and coaching around that. But I want everybody to know that you matter, your feelings matter, your thoughts, your opinions matter, what you want matters. And I want you to live like you do. In order to do that, you have to have the confidence, put a stake in the ground for who you are, learn how to speak up for yourself. All of this is easier than you might imagine. It's just about creating a new neural pathway, which isn't as hard as people might think. And
Yeah.
so there's so much about believing in yourself. And actually, that phrase by itself rings bells in my head, because when I first came across the Enneagram, I met a woman who was a type 3, the achiever, the one who had no doubt about believing in herself. Before I even had that phrase in my vocabulary, I remember, looking at her and seeing her success in all parts of life. And I said to her, Paula, how do you be you? And she looked at me quizzically. She said, what do you mean? And I said, well, it's because, and I listed all these areas in which she was really, competent. And she said, well, I don't know. I just believe in myself. And I was so taken aback. It was a phrase I had never heard, never contemplated. And I thought, that's my mantra. I believe in myself. I believe in myself. I believe in myself. Over and over and over again. I believe in myself. I believe in myself. And there's a song, I Believe in You, which I used to listen to on repeat, because the meaning of the words just, it was what I craved so much. And we all deserve to believe in ourselves. And for some unfortunate reason, many of us aren't taught that when we're young.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, we're not. And I'm feeling like this is circling back around to where we started. You got that, but you got this like embodied sense in that moment when she said that about what that would be like.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like that, you've got to believe in yourself and self-love and self-worth. And people sort of know that they don't have it, but I feel like a lot of times it's all in their head. Exactly. They don't fully understand what that is, and they don't have an embodied sense of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes we have to go to what it means in its opposite. Like, what does it feel like in your body when you don't believe in yourself?
Mhm.
Well, heavy, sad, like my heart is sad and I'm getting smaller. And I have them embody that emotion that they don't like. And there's an embodiment practice that I guide my clients through to shift it. And because, we could talk about what it is to believe in yourself. And I don't want to insult the world of therapy, but what can happen with talk therapy is when we describe the story that we don't want, it not only keeps the old neural pathways alive, but every time we tell this story, those neural pathways get even stronger.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yeah.
we have to have a new story.
Yes.
Like,
And we need to talk that story and walk that story, and
mhm.
not the old one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So you just brought your world of dance and how you embodied your emotional life into the Enneagram, and how you describe the different types, and develop this method of mastering your emotional life by embodying these different neural pathways. Do I have that?
Yeah, it was very good. Yes,
Okay.
very good.
One of the things that I saw when I was first introduced to you was, I think it was on Facebook. You had these wonderful raps. They were, and in the raps, you were playing out the different Enneagram types and their emotional experience. And I thought this was so awesome because I could see in how you were doing it what that type was like, in a way that you could have said it to me all day long with words, in a paragraph, and I would not have gotten it. And so I thought it would be fun if you did a rap for the viewers today.
Yeah, you know what? I wonder, you and I were talking earlier about that, and then we
Yeah.
thought I would do the one I'm on choosing.
Yeah.
But in listening to you talk, I'm wondering if I should do one on one of the types because you were describing how I describe a type.
Yeah.
So, do you have a preference? I choose on my behalf or one of the Enneagram types. And I'm
Oh,
looking for my notes now if you want one of those.
well, if
Well,
you're going to pick a type, I mean, do you have your types right there?
I'm just opening one now. Let's see. Yeah, you know what? Because it did. Okay, so I got some feedback that I was capturing 15 years of Enneagram knowledge in 3 minutes. That tends to
That's
be
great.
3 minutes long. And so I go through the gift of the type, and you'll notice repetition, and the repetition is for a purpose. Do you ever have this experience where there's a song in your head and you can't get that song out of your head?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the purpose of the repetition is to implant a song in your head that you actually like, that actually feels good and strengthens the neural pathway that you want. And so anyway, it starts with the gift of the type. And then, again, there's some repetition. It goes down to the predictable challenge they have. And at the end, there's always a turnaround or what this type most needs to come back to their true essential self.
Oh, nice. Yes.
Okay, so let's see. I haven't done this one in some time, but let me see if I can do this. Okay. 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 This is for Enneagram Type 5, for those of you who know the Enneagram, called the Observer. And I won't say more because you'll get a sense of it while I do this.
Okay.
Okay. You're right. I always pay attention. I observe. I know what's going on. You bet I do. I notice. I'm curious. I look. I see. I take notice. I look. I observe. I always pay attention. I read. I research. Get curious. I read. I research. Gotta know more. Gotta know more. I read. Gotta know more. Gotta know more. I go deep with my knowledge. See into the depths. Gotta know more. Gotta know more. Gotta know more. Yes, I invent, create. I have profound, tenacious focus. Yes, I do. Profound, tenacious focus. Yes, I do. I go deep with ideas and get lost. Got to figure it out. Got to figure it out. I go deep with ideas and get lost. Got to figure it out. Got to figure it out. And with this profound, tenacious focus, I find so many unrelated bits. I pull together every single bit, the big ones, the little ones, the small ones, near and far. I master a skill beyond whatever's known, and I create a whole new world in my head. I get lost in my head. I get lost in my head. I get lost because I can see it. I see it. I see it, see it, see it. I get lost in my head. I get lost in my head. Got to figure it out. So leave me alone. I got to figure it out. Leave me alone. I'll never know enough. Leave me alone. Got to figure it out. Got to figure it out. Time just flies while I figure it out. Got to know more. Got to know more. Got to know more. I block you out. Forget you're even there and dwell on this thing. You might think I'm absent, but I'm right here. I'm right here. You might think I'm cold. I don't like to feel. I feel a little. I might think about my feelings, but feel, I have a narrow range of feelings, and that's okay. It's nice and safe right here. And when I feel safe in the world and know that I belong, there's a place for me. When I feel safe in the world, it's safe to be seen. And then I step into the world and I am here, ready to engage with life. I'm ready to engage with life.
Oh, that's beautiful. And you can just really feel it, what that is and what the challenge is. Yeah. Yeah. And so thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
And you've got more of those posted on your Facebook page. Is that
Well,
correct?
you know, I do have a link which I could send you. I don't know if you want it at this moment, but I have a link which is my playlist on YouTube, and it has all 9 raps.
So it's on YouTube. Okay.
It is. It's on. I have a YouTube channel. The first rap is "Why This," and I
Okay.
talk about I talk about why.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
And yeah, it's a channel that has all the raps.
Well, we'll put a link to your channel on your speaker page so people can find it easier than having to explore YouTube. So where else can people find you?
Well, by taking my quiz, which is part of your emotional mastery toolkit. Your emotional mastery toolkit starts with the quiz. It's at eqquiz.com. So there's a double Q in the middle, eqquiz.com.
Okay.
Get the quiz, you immediately get your emotional mastery blueprint, which is the pie chart of your results. You get your emotional mastery interpretation guide. There's a short video describing a little bit about emotional mastery. And then you do get a call, an invitation to a call with me.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
EQ quiz is a great way to get my email address and then to learn more about what I do.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, this has been such a fun conversation about this topic that I hadn't had any exposure to before. So this is awesome. I can see where it would be really helpful for people.
I'm hearing some words in my head, got to figure it out, got to figure it out. But the one I want to imprint in everybody's mind is not that song. It's the song, I engage with life. I
Yes.
engage with life, because withdrawn types don't always engage. The figuring it out is a gift, but there can be too much of a good thing.
Yes.
Go forth and engage with life.
Yes. Yes. Engage with life and with relationships.
Yeah. Knowing that you deserve the one you want.
Yeah. The one you want. Yes, you do deserve the one you want. I like that. Well, thank you very much. And until next time.
You're welcome. And thank you for having me.